Hi, my name is Justin and I'm with Ascend Finance. Today, we're going to cover Chapter 13 bankruptcy in Illinois. What percentage of Chapter 13 bankruptcies do you think end successfully, i.e. get you out of the debt? Only 38.8%. Why? Well, it's often related to cost and many other variables, so here's what we'll cover in today's video. Number 1, a quick Chapter 13 bankruptcy introduction. Number 2, your monthly Chapter 13 plan payment. Number 3, your Chapter 13 bankruptcy costs in Illinois. Number 4, the Chapter 13 bankruptcy process in Illinois. Number 5, the Chapter 13 bankruptcy pros and cons. And finally, number 6, Chapter 13 bankruptcy alternatives. But before we begin, please understand Chapter 13 bankruptcy can be really complex. So feel free to ask any questions or comment below, and we'll do our best to respond to you as quickly as possible. Also, please leave a like, as if you enjoy the video, as we always find those to be very encouraging. So, with all that being said, let's cover a quick introduction. So number 1, what is a Chapter 13 bankruptcy? Chapter 13 bankruptcy is known as the wage earner's plan. Well, that's because it allows individuals with a regular income to pay back some or all of their debts. Chapter 13 bankruptcy plan is monthly plan payment for often 3 or 5 years. People often like Chapter 13 bankruptcy because it can stop wage garnishment, foreclosure, and provide legal protection against creditors. One of the most important things to understand is the affordability of your Chapter 13 plan payment in bankruptcy in Illinois. Basically, the question is, how much do you have to pay each month and how many years of a plan? The reason that your Chapter 13 plan payment is so important is that it may actually be more expensive than your current debt obligations. With all that being said, it could also be less expensive, so it really depends. We get this question a lot, so we actually built a free Chapter 13 calculator based on the actual bankruptcy forms, which you can use to estimate your Chapter 13 plan payment based on your zip code using the Illinois Chapter 13 calculators in the notes below. Now, let's discuss your Chapter 13 payment, how it works in Illinois, the various costs and fees attached, the Chapter 13 bankruptcy processes in Illinois, the pros and cons, and the alternatives. So let's talk about your Chapter 13 plan payment in Illinois. There are various factors of what goes into your Chapter 13 plan payments. Let's dive in. First, disposable income. The amount of income you have each month after subtracting allowable payroll deductions and allowable living expenses from your gross monthly income is what calculates your disposable income. Now, you can always check on the government means testing website to see what the local standards for Illinois for the housing, utilities, and transportations. Assets. So in some cases, you may see that the value of your asset could actually increase the total amount of your Chapter 13 plan, because if your assets have a large amount of non-exempt equity, that could affect it. What I mean is, if you own a home and it has a great deal of equity that is above the Illinois bankruptcy exemptions, your Chapter 13 plan payment could be much higher. Debts. So some debts must be paid in full through a Chapter 13 plan. Basically, it's going to be more so the priority unsecured debts like taxes, alimony, child support, administrative costs, while other creditors may receive partial payments, and those are going to be more so the unsecured debts like medical bills, credit card debt, personal loans. Chapter 13 plans typically include back mortgage payments and car loan payments as well. Finally, recent financial transactions. So some recent financial transactions could actually impact your Chapter 13 plan. Duration is also an important thing to consider in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, as the question is, are you eligible for a 3 or 5 year plan, right? So your average monthly income compared to the Illinois median income guideline is used to help determine whether you're going to qualify for a 3-year or a 5-year Chapter 13 bankruptcy case in Illinois. You can look at below in the description or right here for the median income guidelines for Illinois for cases filed after May 15th, 2021. You can check the government's means testing website or use our calculator for up-to-date data as it changes every 6 months. Now, the Chapter 13 bankruptcy fees in Illinois. The main fees to consider in an Illinois bankruptcy is the Chapter 13 bankruptcy attorney fee, trustee fee, filing fees, bankruptcy courses, miscellaneous fees, right? So one thing to know is our Chapter 13 calculator below actually accounts for all those fees. So we're going to cover them right now one by one, but you can always use our calculator as well. First, attorney fee. The Chapter 13 bankruptcy fee in Illinois is estimated to be around $3,500 to $3,800. This fee may depend on the district, so let's say a Chapter 13 attorney fee may be different in Aurora depending on Naperville, depending on the district. Chapter 13 trustee fees. Another cost is a Chapter 13 trustee fee. So a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, as we know now, is often a 3 or 5 year plan. So there are going to be many administrative fees and tasks attached. So there may be, a 6.5% to 7.3% for the Illinois Chapter 13 bankruptcy trustee fees. Just as a reference, just letting you know, as this can result in thousands of dollars in trustee fees. Filing fee. So the bankruptcy filing fee for a Chapter 13 case is around $313. This fee is paid for the paid directly to the bankruptcy court, and this fee is a national fee, not necessarily specific to Illinois. Finally, there's also miscellaneous fees such as bankruptcy courses and also fees to consider when you're getting to the court. So let's now cover the Chapter 13 bankruptcy process. The process is important to understanding when filing bankruptcy. So here are some questions to consider in the process to file. First, understand the different types of bankruptcies. So most folks will file a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, but it's important to know the differences. Chapter 7 is often cheaper and provides faster debt relief, but each has its own pros and cons. Second, understand which debts will be eliminated. Many unsecured debts are eliminated in a Chapter 13, but it's good to understand which ones are and which are not. Third, estimate your Chapter 13 bankruptcy plan payment. It's good to get an idea of what your 13 could look like for you specifically. 4, understand alternatives to filing Chapter 13 bankruptcy. The main alternatives to Chapter 13 bankruptcy are Chapter 7, debt settlement, debt management, and debt payoff planning. 5, determine whether to hire a Chapter 13 bankruptcy attorney to file bankruptcy. 6, take a credit counseling course. 7, file bankruptcy petition and other forms. 8, a Chapter 13 bankruptcy trustee is assigned to your bankruptcy filing. 9, attend the Chapter 13 bankruptcy court meetings. 10, take a second mandatory debt education course. 11, continue to make your Chapter 13 monthly plan payments. And 12, you'll receive your bankruptcy discharge. As you can see, there's a whole slew of steps in the process, but some of the processes are just understanding whether you'd like to file bankruptcy or not. The 5th, let's go over the Chapter 13 bankruptcy pros and cons. We'll first cover the pros and cons, first cover the pros, First pro is it can prevent foreclosure so that you can keep your home by catching up with the past due mortgage payments over 3 to 5 years. Another pro, it can stop wage garnishments, seizures, levies, or any debt collection lawsuits. Pro, it can stop creditor harassment. Another pro, it can stop wage garnishments, I was saying before. You may also get a discharge on a second mortgage through a Chapter 13. Another pro, you may be able to pay less than what you owe to satisfy the secured lien on your vehicle. Another pro, catch up on past due child support and alimony. Another pro could be getting rid of unsecured debts for pennies on the dollar. You may be able to resolve tax debts and IRS problems. And finally, another pro would be that you can protect property from being sold to pay the debts. Now, let's cover the downsides. One con is the cost of the Chapter 13 bankruptcy can sometimes be expensive. And it's often 3 or 5 years. It can have a negative impact on your credit score, and it can reflect negatively on your credit report as well. 2 other cons are first, low payment flexibility. It may have a difficulty variability of what your payment would look like. And finally, your monthly plan payment can increase if your income increases. Now we have an idea of the pros and cons. I want to jump into Chapter 13 bankruptcy alternatives. So now let's cover the common Chapter 13 bankruptcy alternatives in this video here. So first, let's cover Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So Chapter 7 bankruptcy is often the least expensive option and the fastest form of debt relief. You can get rid of debt relief in as little as 120 days, and there's no Chapter 13 trustee, and the attorney fees are also a lot less expensive because the cases are less complex. Many people file a Chapter 7 when they qualify and are not at risk of losing any belongings in the bankruptcy. Second, let's cover debt settlement. So debt settlement is where a company or you negotiate and settle debt with your creditors. The goal is to reduce the payment burden of all your debt by around 50%, which will help lower your monthly payment, thus providing debt relief. There are definitely pros and cons of debt settlement, so definitely do your research. Third, let's cover debt management. Debt management is often where a nonprofit credit counseling agency negotiates the interest rate on your current debt. They may negotiate a high interest credit card on a 25% interest rate down to 9%. The goal is to reduce your monthly payment. You may also be on a 3 or 5 year payment plan. I hope this video has been helpful in your understanding of filing a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. You can visit the Chapter 13 bankruptcy calculator below to estimate your planned payment. Did you learn anything, something new from this video? Please click the subscribe button, as we're going to put more and more videos out to hopefully help you make the most informed decision. Now, I'd like to turn it over to you. What are some questions you have about filing Chapter 13 bankruptcy? Please comment below, and I'll do my best to respond as quickly as possible. Thanks for watching.